Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, if you're watching live, it's Saturday. Um, my name is Vicky Marie. I'm based in mainland Spain, and I make videos about true crime or anything that I think that I or any of my chatters will find interesting. And yeah, so it's Saturday, as I say. It's a very lovely day here in Spain. The sun's shining. I hope the sun's shining where you are, or if the sun's not shining, I just hope that you're having a good day, or a good morning, or a good afternoon, or a good evening. So first of all, I just want to say, I need to put my banner on, which I quite often forget. I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching. I'm going to say hello to anyone who's in the chat in a moment, but also I want to say hello to those of you lurkers like me. I'm a lurker who don't really like joining in the chat, but like to see what's going on. Hi to you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Rachel, and thank you for caring about all the cases that we discuss on my channel. I also want to say a special thank you, as always, for those of you who have bought me a coffee, sent a super chat, who have joined. You members, you are so special. Thank you. Anyway, you positively, you've contributed to my channel. Thank you so much. Now, I just want to say about Sunday, don't forget on Sunday, we're doing the Sunday service. I have put a notification out for it. Sunday is tomorrow, of course, because sometimes I forget what day it is. All the days roll into one. But tomorrow is Sunday at 11 o'clock Spanish time. We're having Sunday service. We're going to talk about positivity. We're going to send out some good vibes to all our fellow chatters, all our fellow followers of this channel. And, no matter what their problems are, and I've had quite a lot of emails already. Thank you for trusting me enough. What I do love as well is people do trust me. They know you send me an email that you don't want to be made public, or send me a message you don't want to be made public. You decide how public you want to be with what you share with me. I've had emails from people, they'll know who they are if they're watching this. I've never made public. People that I make videos about, I've had emails from them, and I will never make it public, because until that's what they want. If it comes to a day that some people want to be public, they want to tell their story or their family's story, if they're the family of a victim, or if they've had an experience with the courts, or, sometimes they want to tell their story and other times they don't. And whatever you want, you will never, ever have me betray your confidence unless you tell me that it's okay to do so, or maybe even you want to do so. Unlike other social media creators, not only on here but over on TikTok, to me, if somebody makes it's a massive thing, isn't it, to trust someone with your secrets, not even secrets, but just your thoughts, your hopes, the pain you're going through for whatever reason. If somebody trusts you with that, how dare you share it with the world when someone has expressly asked you not to? And this happens quite a lot, I've noticed, with creators. They suddenly decide who they're going to share things with or what they're going to share. And, that's wrong, because you share whoever the person is who sent you the information, whatever it is. It's almost like you're a priest, really, isn't it? It's like a confessional. You have an obligation. Depends. Don't get me wrong. If somebody sent me a message and said they'd just murdered someone or whatever, I'd have to go and tell the police about that. I'm talking about people's private thoughts their private thoughts, their private struggles. We're all going through struggles, aren't we? Life is a struggle. There's good things about life, but there's a lot of things about it that are difficult, for various reasons, which I've made a community post and I've said what I'm going to talk about on Sunday. So many different struggles that we go through, and we're all here together in this journey of life, whatever it is. Nobody's getting out of it alive. That I remember that quote from when I was young. That was like what you would call a meme. God, where would I have seen that? Because when I was young, we didn't have social media. Where the hell would I have seen that? But that was a quote. I suppose it all came from books then and things, magazines, etc. Don't take life too seriously because you're not getting out of it alive. And it's 100% certain. We're all here. We're all on the journey. And, except for people who are genuinely sort of nasty, we have to try and be good to all people, try and understand what people might be going through and the reasons why they do things. Anyway, okay. I think that's it. So I'm going to take the banner off now. And of course, what we're going to talk about in this video is we're going to talk about the last developments in the trial of Rachel Morin's murderer, what happened yesterday. That trial will now start again on Monday, so there'll be a couple of days we won't have any information. We're going to talk about Russel Brand, who's been charged with sex offences. I'm going to show you his response, what he says about it all. And we're also going to look at the Joanne Sharkey sentence. And this is the woman that murdered her baby a long time ago. But literally, it was murder. And, I'm finding it difficult to get through the fact that if you murder a baby, you don't get any sort of prison sentence. But anyway, you'll all tell me what you think. I know a lot of people have been sympathetic towards Joanne because they think she must have had postnatal depression or whatever. But anyway, I've got my view, you've got your view. Everyone's entitled to give their views about any of the subjects we talk about. We just don't attack each other, do we? Okay, so first of all, I think I said hello to the lurkers. I've said hello to the replay crew, or I want to say hello to the replay crew. And I'm going to say hello to anyone who's here in the chat at the moment. Thank you for being here. Hi, David. Hi, Mello. Hi, Angel. And hi, Lorna. Thank you for being here. Thank you to, some people like to chat. Please don't be scared of coming into my chat because nobody's going to be nasty to you, or if they are, they're, it's adios amigo. So if you want to chat, please do, but please remember to press the like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Those are free ways you can help my channel. And if you want to go a little bit further, you can buy a Ko-fi or you can join as a member. We have members lives every Thursday, exclusive members live. So anyway, whatever you want to do. So let's look first of all, we're going to look at Rachel and the latest developments in the trial. What happened? Had a little video, I think, somewhere to show, news video somewhere. The problem is I tend to sort of get things organised and then lose them. I think it might have been this, though. This is not actually a video. Let's see. Right, I've got to put Windows down as usual. No, I don't have that video. I did have some news videos about it. Anyway, we'll look at this first of all. So Rachel Morin, this beautiful woman, 37 years old, mother of 5 children of various ages, went for a walk on the Morin Trail that she'd done ever since she was a child, and was brutally murdered. Allegedly, well, she wasn't allegedly murdered, she was definitely murdered. She was allegedly murdered by Mr. Twonk, Victor, I think it's Hernandez Martinez or Martinez Hernandez. His name doesn't matter, but this is him. The most important person, obviously, that matters is Rachel, her family, and what they're having to go through. But do you know, I feel like I had a different video to show that I seem to have lost, which is a bit annoying. Anyway, so basically what happened on Friday is Rachel's family, her ex-boyfriend, he wasn't her ex-boyfriend, he was her boyfriend at the time, he testified. And Rachel's oldest daughters, who are 18 and 14, had to testify. I still can't quite get this into my head, that they had to testify to, the last times that they heard from their mother. Imagine that as a teenager. And that's the reason why I'm wearing pink as well, because apparently their favourite colours are pink and green. Don't know really why Rachel's mum wasn't wearing pink on the first day of the trial. I have heard that actually Rachel's mum, although she's made a big thing about everything, sucking up to Donald Trump, because this was an illegal immigrant who allegedly killed Rachel. But I don't think the family are all together on everything. I don't think Patty was as close to Rachel and her children as she seems to make out. I'm just saying that's what I've heard. If Patty's out there and she wants to say any different, go ahead and say different. But you never see them all together. She's not wearing pink or green, even though the children wanted people to wear pink or green. Every time I will talk about Rachel's case, I will be wearing pink or green or both. So 5 witnesses were called on that first day on Friday, including Rachel's 2 eldest children and her boyfriend. Keep saying ex-boyfriend, he wasn't her ex-boyfriend, with whom she'd become Facebook official just days prior to her death. And they painted a picture of Rachel's last day alive, and then the panic moments that followed when they realised she had not returned. And the attorney said a mother's worst nightmare came true that day, but actually I think it was a child's worst nightmare. I don't know if Patty would have been expecting to hear from Rachel anyway. So it began as a lazy Saturday morning spent with her boyfriend Richard Tobin, later running errands, meeting back up with Richard to go to the gym, cleaning the house with her daughter. So she was with her daughter on that day. And then around 6 p.m, she headed to the Morin Trail, ready for her daily ritual run. So this is something she did every day. And this always sort of perturbs me a bit, that maybe she was stalked by Victor, because if she went every day at the same time, did Victor know that? Was he waiting for her, or was he just waiting for any woman to go past? It was her piece, Tobin said in court. And texts submitted into evidence on Friday show Rachel's final conversations, down to the minute she stops responding. And during opening statements, Healy identified it was data from her tech devices, including these messages, that helped to narrow down a window of time in which Rachel was attacked, RAPD'd and red-runged on the Mar and Par trail. And poor Rachel had been strangled, hit multiple times on the head, and had sustained blunt force trauma, both of which led to her death. And investigators found that Martinez Hernandez had searched for Rachel and a misspelling of Morin. They also found a screenshot of a report about the investigation into her death. Court at times did get emotional. Violet Custer, Morin, Rachel's 14-year-old, broke down on the stand and could be heard sobbing outside of the courtroom after her testimony. I mean, do you imagine? And this poor girl, both those poor girls. So the other girl is Faye and Violet. They should never have been in a position why they had to, they should never have been in a position where they had to talk about their mother's last day, should they? Anyway, at one point it appeared that Richard Tobin, Rachel's boyfriend at the time, was staring down defendant Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. Great, they give him his full fucking name, isn't it? You get his full name, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, but they call Rachel Morin. Oh my God, you know how angry this makes me. Custer. So Violet has only got her surname given, and Tobin's only got his surname given, Richard. Oh, but Victor gets the full fucking Monty. Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. Anyway, they testified they with a family friend went searching for Rachel around 3 a.m. on August the 6th. Sometimes, honest to God, I think, are they doing this on purpose just to make me swear? Because I really try not to swear when I'm talking about cases like this, out of respect to Rachel. But do you know what makes me so angry? This is Custer, Tobin, and Morin. But the twonk who murdered her, or allegedly, is Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So around 3 a.m. on August the 6th, so that'll be the following day, will it? That was around the time that the Criminal Investigation Division within the Harford County Sheriff's Office took over the missing persons case, not even 12 hours after Richard reported it. Patty Morin, she gets her first name put in there, attended court as well with her son Michael and daughter Rebecca, Rachel's siblings. Funny though, but I don't think they'd been much in contact. That's all I'm saying. And this their attorney, Randolph Rice, there's a lot, actually now's not the time to go into it. I'll go into it after the trial. But there's a lot of bad feeling between Rachel's children and Patty, Michael, etc. But we'll look into that another time. Now's not the time. So their attorney, Randall Rice said, I'm a little anxious, but they're certainly looking forward to getting this over with. Now, that is certainly true. So those poor girls, Faye and Custer. Oh, no, she's not called Custer. Faye and Violet, they had to give that testimony. They're just young girls, teenage girls who've lost their mum. But luckily or fortunately or thank God, hopefully they won't have to come back, to have to testify again. But they were in there and they were in there in court with the man that has murdered their mother, allegedly. How horrible. Anyway, Randolph Rice said, I think this is going to be a case that the family is going to be very happy with, seeing the evidence presented, and I am optimistic they will secure a conviction. So the attorney, Healy, during an even-keeled speech to jurors, made note to emphasize the DNA evidence they have linking Martinez Hernandez to the crime. And that's the whole point of it. He can say he was never in Maryland. You know, how's he going to say that? Because his DNA was everywhere. You know, so this is, in my opinion, a slam dunk case. But because of that, the defense are going to get desperate and say some horrible things, accusing anyone whoever had any male, whoever had any contact with Rachel. They've already stated, oh, well, she was an attractive woman. She attracted male attention. You know, as if that matters. What matters is this man, his DNA was all over. That's what counts. Because the defense attorney, Sawyer Hicks, pointed out the state lacks a motive, a strong connection between Rachel and the defendant, and leaves unanswered questions. As in, if Richard and Rachel had had intimate relations the morning of her death, why was none of his DNA found anywhere on her body? Well, probably she had a shower after, you know, normal relationship, sex. Maybe he used a condom. You know, I don't see, actually, I'm not even going there because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't be asking why none of his DNA was found. What you're going to be asking is, why was Victor's DNA found? That's the relevant question. And then the prosecution appeared to try and answer this question by asking Richard when Rachel usually showered, to which he replied, usually in the morning. I'm sure Rachel would have showered if she had some relations with Richard that morning. She would have had a shower afterwards, wouldn't she? Oh, anyway, the defense claims. What does the defense claim? They suggested to the jury a stranger could not have committed a crime of passion like this one, where the suspect intended to humiliate Rachel. I think you're humiliating Rachel enough by referring to her as Morin all the time. Defense attorney Sawyer Hicks suggested that Rachel's new relationship could have been unwelcome news to others. Who are they discussing? So the state also called Ivan Knapp, the bystander who discovered Rachel's body in a drainage culvert just off the trail to the stand. He saw a rock with blood after following what looked like a deer path, and then checked the left drainage culvert tunnel where he saw an unclothed woman's body. This is sort of, I need to look back on this because I thought it was that guy Michael's daughter who found the body, but maybe this is her partner. I don't know. It was brutal and not cool, he recalled, telling his friend who went searching with him. And police later discovered 150 foot. That's a long trail, isn't it? 150 foot. I mean, I'm just rubbish with figures like that and distances and stuff. But even I know that 150 foot is long. Long. Oh, and apparently what also happened was at the beginning of the day, the judge dismissed the first alternate juror for unknown reasons. And there were also other discussions with two other jurors, though it's unclear why. And 5 alternate jurors remain. So court resumes Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. So that will probably be the last time over the weekend that we'll be talking about Rachel's case. Yeah, he definitely said that, didn't he, David? When Michael was being interviewed, he said it was his stepdaughter. We need to look at that interview again. We'll look at it one day. I've got so many things to look at the moment. As always, there's always a lot to talk about, about all sorts of things. But yeah, remember that with Michael. He definitely said It was his stepdaughter that found the body, but now maybe Ivan is her boyfriend or some, relationship to her. But we need to look at that at some point. Anyway, that's where we are with the trial of Rachel Morin. Not the trial of Rachel Morin, but the trial of the murder of Rachel Morin. So now we're going to look at this case, which I think is very, very, now, again, contentious. Most of the things we talk about are contentious. This person, Joanne Sharkey, that I've put up in the top right-hand corner there, a photo of her. Let's see if I've got a bigger one of her here. Now, Joanne, quite a long time ago, I think it's about 20 odd years ago, if not longer. Let me put some windows down and then I can find the details about Joanne. Murdered her baby. Quarter of a century ago. It seems a long time, doesn't it, when you say it like that? It's 25 years ago. But then what we've not got to forget is that baby that this woman murdered. I mean, to me, she murdered her. She's the mother and she murdered her. Whatever problem, how can we, I say, twonks are always coming up with excuses of depression. Oh, depression, ADHD, autism, whatever. All the reasons that people come up with for being twonks. But people are quite sympathetic towards Joanne for some reason, even though she's coming up with an excuse of depression after 25 years. How do we know that she was depressed at that time? How do we know, that she genuinely had postnatal depression? We don't know, do we really? But people are ready to accept it from her, where they're not necessarily ready to accept it from other people. So why is that? Anyway, let's see what this woman did. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this woman is living with her own persecution. She would never forget she murdered her own baby. She put tissues down his throat. Let's not forget what she did as well. She put tissues in his throat to kill him. And then she discarded him like garbage in the woods in a plastic bag. When really, at the end of the day, she could have, left him outside a church or somebody would have adopted him. There were other things she could have done than putting tissues down his throat and murdering him and chucking him like garbage into the woods. And you may sense from my tone, I'm not that sympathetic, to be honest. I can't be, because to me, the most vulnerable people in our society are babies, children, old people, even animals, because people or or animals that can't defend anyone or anything that cannot defend itself that is alive is the most vulnerable thing in our society. And when somebody takes the life or abuses or hurts people or animals who cannot do anything about it. So this is why I think I get so upset about animals being abused. For the sake of abuse, I'm talking about. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a vegetarian, I eat meat. People are probably going to say that, oh, well, you eat meat, it's just the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. To abuse an animal for pleasure is different. And, whether you look at it that way, anyway, everyone's got their views, have your views, and that's fine. But to actually do something for pleasure as far as animal abuse is concerned, to me, is wrong. And abusing old people who are so vulnerable because they cannot fight back. And babies cannot fight back. This baby, this is the mother of that baby. She had that baby. Why did she carry it to full term? Why didn't she have an abortion? Which, not saying necessarily that I agree with abortion, but that's a personal choice as long as the baby is inside, you know, the mother. It's part of the mother. That's a more complex issue, isn't it? But once that baby is born, it is a living entity, and you as a mother or father or as a human being have a responsibility to not murder that little baby who can't do anything. The baby is so vulnerable, they cannot do anything. And this woman, she murdered that baby, and not only she did that, she tossed it like garbage out in the woods. And I'm sorry, I personally I'm a little bit sort of part of me feels sorry for her, because as I say, she's got to live with it, and when the day comes, when her judgment day comes, she's got to make herself accountable for it. But anyway, so this is what she did. So she said apparently during her trial, oh sorry, let me share this. She said she'd been haunted by this secret for 25 years. Look at this little casket. See, all these people cared about this baby more than she did. So, you know, this has only been identified now, this baby. That baby, well, for a start, it was lying out just discarded like rubbish for a long time. And even then, when it was found, nobody knew who the baby was or who it belonged to. It's only recently that it's been given a proper name, if you like, or an identity. Look at the size of that coffin. You know, I honestly, I'm a bit sort of, I feel that in Britain, just children, vulnerable people, they're just not valued. You know, this woman, same with Hugh Edwards, who abused children, she abused the child in a different way. She's not received a prison sentence. Do you think she wouldn't have received a prison sentence if she would have robbed a bank or been a benefit fraud or a Just Stop Oil protester or a grandma who made a tweet about a racist tweet or whatever? All those sort of things will give you a prison sentence in Britain. But murder a baby? No. No, 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 no. God, just murder babies. Doesn't matter. You won't get prison. Anyway, so it does make me a little bit angry. So this is what one of her neighbours said. When I heard about it and I saw her name, I thought, that's not the woman. That's not the same woman we've lived by all these years. So this is the other thing that people say, oh, well, by all intents and purposes, she was a really nice person. She was a pillar of the community. Oh, yeah, like Ted Bundy, like BTK, the Gilgo Beach killer, all these serial killers, pillars of the community. Yeah, nobody could believe it when it came out what they'd done, because it just seemed like a normal person. You know, this, I can feel myself getting angry about this now. And it does make me angry. But she was, in my opinion, a monster who had murdered a baby, her own baby. And then she went on and had other babies, lived a life, had relationships. All in the meantime, that baby was dead, murdered. If it wasn't for these people who gave this baby a dignified funeral, that baby would still be lying in a trash bag in the woods. If it wasn't for them, you know, she never came out later to talk about it. Yeah, maybe at that point she was in a bad space in her life. Everyone has bad phases in their lives. But she never came out to, you know, make things right. She was only because she got caught. She was suffering from that courtoutitis that people get people suffer with, isn't it? She never came forward and said, oh, I just can't live with this anymore, this poor baby. She got caught out, and if she wouldn't have got caught out, she would never have said anything. So That's how a resident of a cul-de-sac in Liverpool. Oh, she didn't live in a cul-de-sac. Maybe if she would have lived in a council estate, maybe she would have been black or an immigrant or something. She wouldn't have got away with it so lightly, would she? So that's how a resident of a cul-de-sac in Liverpool described the moment she learned her neighbour for more than 30 years, Joanne Sharkey, had been charged with the 1998 killing of her baby boy. Another neighbour said that when police first arrived at the family's immaculate semi-detached house, oh, she had an immaculate house. She must be a nice person because her house was clean and tidy. In July 2023, she had thought one of the lodgers they sometimes hosted must have been in trouble. Yeah, she couldn't have been Joanne. It must have been one of the lodgers. Oh my God, must have been some immigrant, some foreigner. It simply did not make sense that someone like kind, funny and normal council worker Joanne Sharkey could have committed a crime. Oh my God, how could she possibly have committed a crime? God. But the truth was, detectives had finally cracked a cold case that had lingered unsolved on the books of Cheshire Police for 25 years. God, I can feel this anger rising inside me, because it's like, because she was so respectable, how could she have done something like this? Must have been one of her foreign lodgers. On Friday, Sharkey was handed a 2-year prison term. Well, first of all, it's only 2 years prison term, suspended for 2 years after a judge concluded her postnatal depression had impaired her judgment so severely the case called for compassion rather than punishment. Well, I'm simmering with rage because that baby has had no justice whatsoever. No justice. His own mother killed him, murdered him, and not only that, discarded him like rubbish in a bin bag. And doesn't matter, it's okay. Murder your child, that's fine. You won't get a prison sentence. And it would have only been 2 years anyway. Yeah, abuse a child like Hugh Edwards or have these abusive things on your phone, don't matter. Just get a suspended sentence. Rob a bank, you're in prison for life. So she said, for Sharkey, oh, am I supposed to feel sorry for her now? The past quarter of a century had, in her own words, been spent waiting for that knock on the door. Good. But you still carried on though, didn't you? Thing is, she got past her postnatal depression. She still never owned up and came forward. And in March 1998, a man walking his dogs in the Callans area of Warrington. She's a woollyback, this woman. I don't know if you know what a woollyback is. She's a posh scouser. She's a scouser, but she thinks she's a bit better than all of it. And this is how it feels to me about her. It's like, oh, if she would have been on a council estate in Liverpool, she would have had the book thrown at her, but she's not. She's a woollyback. She's in the suburbs. She's respectable. So inside was the body of a newborn baby boy weighing 7 pounds 5 ounces. This boy was alive. He was murdered. So with no immediate clue of where he'd come from, local people gave him the name Callum after the Callans area where he was found. I'm totally incandescent about this. I think you might be realising this. So Joanne Sharkey told police she felt she could not face becoming a mother when she killed her newborn son. Oh, that's all right then. You couldn't face becoming a mother. So anyone who if you can't face becoming a mother, just murder your child. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Oh God, I look at her face. I just see someone pretending to be, something they're not. Anyway, apparently his mother had not told a soul, including her husband, Neil Sharkey. Not only had she hidden the birth and death of Callum, but no one had ever known she was pregnant. she would spend the next 25 years, he would spend the next 25 years oblivious to the fact he had fathered a second child. So I don't know how he feels about it all, because that was his child. She murdered his child. How would you feel? All you men out there that are watching, how would you feel someone murdered your child like that? Years later, it was older son Matthew, born in 1996, who inadvertently unlocked the mystery of Callum's identity. In the days after, where's it gone? In the days after baby Callum's discovery, Tess found wads of tissue paper had been inserted into his mouth and throat, confirming it was not likely to have been an accident. Come on, this woman, she deserves worse treatment than this. I'm sorry, don't get it. Don't get it. Just don't get it. You know, she is bad. Don't care what she says. It was selfish what she did. Don't believe in this. If I won't accept the depression and whatever argument for people murdering other people, how am I going to accept it here? Blood was found from the baby's mother on the bin bags, and from that they were able to extract a full DNA profile. And this was, they were thinking it was going to be a teenage girl. Wasn't a teenage girl. Anyway, a list was drawn up of teenage girls who had been absent from the 3 local schools around the time of baby Callum's death, so their DNA could be tested. And a number of young women were even arrested after their families suggested to detectives they might be involved. She just sat through all that, let all that go on, because she's a selfish cow. I cannot believe she should have faced prison. I'm sorry. Now, she's got her own guilt to face. She's got to live with it forever. She's going to pass from this world one day. And on her dying day, will she be thinking of baby Callum and how she's going to pay in hell for murdering him? I hope so. I honestly hope so. So the years rolled on, and in 2016, the first review of the National DNA Database was ordered, which resulted in a list of hundreds of names of potentially linked people. And some attempts had been made to narrow it down by the time Detective Inspector Hannah Friend took on the case in 2021. And early in the case, detectives were thrilled when a name caught their attention. It was someone who lived near where Callum was found and had been spoken to by the original investigation team. But they had not given a statement or had their details recorded properly, because there's some middle-class woman, some woollyback, some bloody posh scouser, not council teenage girl who they would expect it to be. We thought maybe this is somebody who slipped through the net, and as it turned out, it wasn't at all. We were so disappointed because we thought we'd solved it. So after 2 years of ruling out potential suspects, Inspector Friend made the decision in 2023 to run a new trawl of the National DNA Database. She was confronted with a fresh list of roughly 500 names, and in her words, a new search for a needle in a haystack. And this time was different. Amongst the names was Matthew Sharkey. Initially, his name was one among several interesting DNA profiles which was sent to a forensic scientist for more detailed comparison with baby Callum. Oh, there she is, Joanne, hiding her face. Yeah, you should hide your face. You can't hide your face from God and from the next world. You murdered your baby. You know, your best bet would be to be open about it and say you're sorry, as she even said she was sorry. She's not even sorry, is she? All she said when she was arrested was, oh, well, my husband doesn't know anything about this. Yeah. So imagine how her other son feels. How does Matthew feel now knowing that his brother was murdered by his mother as a baby with tissues stuffed down his throat? You can't stop giving the details of this because it's important that it's known what she did. She stuffed tissue down his throat. She murdered him and then she tossed him like garbage into the woods. That's what she did. So a few months before she was arrested, a detective inspector friend got an email from the scientist with the subject heading, "Are you sitting down?" And the email confirmed Matthew Sharkey was a direct relative of baby Callum, with a 1 in 36 billion likelihood of him not being. And Detective Inspector Friend said, "We were able to identify a woman who we thought was the mother of Callum, and that was Joanne Sharkey." I think there's some arguing going on outside my house, but you can never be sure in Spain. The investigation team were at pains to be as sure as they could be that they had the right person before moving in, as the next step was a devastating one. I didn't want to be walking through that door and destroying people's lives. Well, you know what? Callum's life was destroyed. I actually hate this woman already. I do. I was trying to feel sympathy for her. I don't feel any sympathy for her. I think she's a murderer, and she's kept it to herself all this time, and she's hurt that baby, murdered that baby, and she's hurt her own son, who's the brother of that baby, and her husband, who was the father of that baby. I have no sympathy for her. So she was sitting on a couch in pink pajamas with the word mum across them when police went in on the 28th of July. How has she coped? You know, every Mother's Day, every time Callum's birthday came up, you know, the police cared more about her baby than she did because she could not face being a mother at the time. Oh, well, you should have taken contraception, for fuck's sake. There's no excuse now to get pregnant by accident. Take contraception. And then if you find out you're pregnant and you didn't want the baby or whatever, have it adopted. There's people dying, crying out for babies, can't have children, want to adopt. You know, leave the baby outside a church, do whatever. Don't chuck it out in the woods like rubbish. Anyway, body-worn camera footage showed her listening to the arresting officer, wide-eyed but quiet and compliant, and gesturing towards her stunned husband. She told the arresting officer he doesn't know anything about this. And with no evidence at that stage about how Callum had died or whose hands, both parents were arrested, and a court heard later that unbeknown to them, they were recorded as they sat in the back of a police car on the way to the custody suite. Sharkey said to her husband, "I'm not going to deny nothing. It is what it is, isn't it? I did it. It is what it is." That's the sort of thing you say about, I don't know, lots of things, but not murdering a child. So in the grip of severe but undiagnosed postnatal depression following the birth of Matthew, she said her reaction had been, "I can't do this again." Well, do you know what? Lots of people suffer from postnatal depression. Why did you get pregnant again then? How many people suffer from postnatal depression but they don't murder their baby? So apparently she'd been terrified to see news coverage about baby Callum and think that was me. "Oh, it's haunting. Something you think about every day," she said. "You try and push it out, but it creeps back in." Oh, diddums. Am I supposed to feel sorry for this woman? I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for her at all. I feel sorry for Callum, who his life was stolen from him. Why did she not have an abortion earlier on? Why did she do that. Let this baby be born and then murder it. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. So apparently from around 5 months in, she was sure that she was pregnant, and she told police her husband's long hours and shifts meant they'd been strangers in the night, and it had not been difficult to hide her growing bump by wearing baggy clothing. So Neil Sharkey himself described how he was not the greatest husband and father, and how he blamed himself for what had happened. And Sharkey told police her memory was scattered with blanks about Callum's birth, but she recalled about how Neil and Matthew must have been out of the house. She knew what she was going to do. She would have sent them out of the house, or she would have chose a reason for doing it. You know, it's like, yeah. She could not recall precisely what she did to end his life, only that she felt she just had to make him quiet. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll stuff some tissues down his mouth. And medical evidence suggested Callum had likely been subjected to some form of mechanical asphyxiation, and she described driving aimlessly until she came to the point at the spot near Gulliver's World theme park where she dumped his body. And it later emerged she was spotted on that day by a retired man out for a walk who remembered a woman emerging from the woodland looking visibly upset. Right, I think I might have to finish this part of the video here, because it's nearly finished, okay, because I don't know if I can read any more than this. Okay. So from this point, the questions left were complex legal and medical ones. Was Joanne Sharkey capable of forming a rational judgment when she killed Callum? Yes, she was. Was she guilty of murder or manslaughter? Murder. The evidence from psychiatrists commissioned by both the defence and the prosecution all pointed the same way. Sharkey's mental illness meant she had a partial defence to murder. So tell me how 25 years later they can say she had a mental illness. And Detective Inspector Friend said, my responsibility as an investigator is to follow the evidence and to develop that evidence so we can seek the truth. My personal feelings about Sharkey, you wonder on one hand how anybody could do this to a beautiful child, a precious child who deserved to live, and your own child as well. On the other hand, I think how awful to be in this situation where you think this is the best and only option that you have. That's bollocks. Sorry, it's cojones. Cojones, she did it for a selfish reason. That's it, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, her fate was decided at Liverpool Crown Court on Friday morning by Judge Mrs. Justice Eady, who decided that the sentencing exercise calls for compassion. Why? Why? Where's the compassion for Callum? She was given 2-year prison. 2 years for murdering your own baby. 2 years, even if it was suspended. But 2 years. So even if she gets called back, she's only going to do 2 years. With a requirement for mental health treatment. There's nothing mentally wrong with this woman. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. For a Detective Inspector Friend and her team, that promise made by Callum's graveside in 2021 had been fulfilled. And she added, we will, once sentencing is concluded, go back to his grave to lay some flowers, pay him our respects and hope he can rest in peace. Well, yeah, exactly, because they care more about Callum than his own mother did. Has she been to his grave? I wonder. Anyway, so I've got angry now about that. Really angry. This woman to me is just a bitch. She's a bitch who murdered a baby. They can call it mental illness, but I don't accept mental illness as an excuse for anyone who murders anyone else. But certainly for a mother who murders her own baby, Sorry, let me just take her face off there because I can't stand looking at her. She could not give a shit. If this would never have come up, oh God, put the bigger one up, that's even worse. If this would not have, come to light, she would have never said anything. Anyway, she's got to live with herself. So she's getting her own punishment in that way. She's got to live with herself for the rest of her life. And then on the next level, on the next life, she's got to pay a proper judgment. The judgment that baby Callum has not had justice in this world. But hopefully he'll get it in the next world. Anyway, so next thing we're going to talk about, let's move on. A lot of contentious things I know to talk about. Now, you may have a different view to me, which is fine. You may think that bitch face Sharkey has got, should be felt sorry for. I don't feel that. I'm sorry, I just don't. But you're entitled to feel that. Let me know in comments if that's what you feel. Same now that we're coming up with talking about Russell Brand. Everyone will have their views. Some people feel sorry for him. Some people don't. Personally, I don't really. But, I'm willing to accept that there's things about Russell, about this case. He's now been charged, hasn't he? We looked yesterday. He's been charged with various sort of revolting. Just the thought of him being all over you is just revolting, isn't it? I mean, he's quite a revolting man, I personally think. And his eyes are weird, and everything about him is weird. But, some women find him attractive. Not me. I don't expect he cares. Because he's lots of very attractive women have found him attractive. He was, of course, married to Katy Perry, wasn't he, for a while? So I don't expect he gives a shit about what Vicky Marie Chatz thinks of him. But to me, I just look at him and he just literally makes me feel sick. So what do we think about this? These charges that he's now faced with, do we think they're legitimate, or do we think, he's being sort of, I don't know, used? Some people seem to think, he's being attacked because he's attacking, I don't know, the government. I don't know what he's doing. I don't watch him on Rumble and all those things. I think he's just, it doesn't interest me at all, the things he says. But a lot of people like him. You've always got to respect that. We've all got our different points of view. A lot of people think he's worth listening to, just as some people think I'm worth listening to, and probably other people think I talk a load of bollocks. That's how I think about Russell Brand. But, that's a free society that we live in. We all have the right to like who we want to like and not like who we don't want to like. Or sometimes like some things that we like about someone and not like others. But anyway, I've just got to go and check something. I'll be back in 1 sec. And what we're going to look at is his response to the charges that have been found about him. Get down. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. It's just I am actually cooking a curry as I'm online. And it's Saturday. I normally make a curry on a Saturday. I just had to go and check that it wasn't burning or anything. It's on a low light. Oh, that's what you get on YouTube, isn't it? You get the reels that, you're trying to sort of talk about whatever subject you're talking about. And at the same time, you're normally doing something else. Okay, I've just got to check a message that's come through. All right. Okay, so what do we think about Russell? What do you think about him? Do you like him? I mean, I never liked him even when he was popular. Just got to take Joanne Sharkey's face off my thing because I can't stand looking at her. Okay, what do we think about Russell? Let me know, as always, in comments. You know, do you like him? Do you not like him? Do you think he's being, what's the word? People are being unfair to him, or the police? Anyway, he's been charged. He's been charged, hasn't he, with various offences. You know, just has. So that's the way it is. Now let's have a look at his response to his charges.
When I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, we're just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist.
So he's now living in the light of the Lord, apparently. Now, let me know what you think about that. Do you think it's genuine? Do you think he has found God now? And I mean, one thing I will say about Russell is he is always open about the way he was, sort of, you know, that he was a drug addict, he was an alcoholic, sex addict, he was an idiot, like he said. I mean, he did a lot of crazy things that he admits to, but one thing he will not admit to. But then what you've got to think is those other things, of course, are not illegal. You know, RAPE is illegal. Now he's sort of got this life. I don't think he even lives in Britain now, does he? He lives in America with his wife and his children, and he's made this new life. But do you think these accusations from years ago are real or not? That's basically my question. What do you think?
I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you.
Yeah, you see, when he said that, when I watched this and he said, oh, I think you can see that by looking in my eyes, I looked in his eyes and I thought, oh, I don't know, because to me, he looks really angry. This is the impression I get when I look in his eyes at the moment. He is so angry. That's how the feeling I get off him. It's like a real aggression coming off there. He's so angry that this is being said about him. Not sorry. Not and my personal opinion about Russell Brand is probably maybe all those years ago, maybe he doesn't even remember, because he didn't even know what he was doing from one day to the next. He self-confessed that he was a drug addict. Now, maybe he doesn't remember that he forced himself on people sometimes. And I'm not saying everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and as including Russell. But when he said, oh, I hope you can see that by looking in my eyes, I looked in his eyes and I thought, nah. But anyway, let me know what you think.
For your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Oh, incredible, grateful. See all this, he just feels like he's like, I'm incredible, grateful, but he isn't really. And I felt that right from the beginning. It was like, oh, we're so grateful. We should be so grateful to be living in this society. I just didn't feel like any of it was true that he was saying, but he's saying it through gritted teeth. Again, let me know what you think. We're going to watch this till the end, then we'll go back to the beginning of it and I won't comment on it.
In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter. Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. But is it just me? But he doesn't actually look. He looked to me like he was saying all this through gritted teeth, and he said, look in my eyes. I look in his eyes and I just see he's fucking angry as hell. Anyway, we'll see.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for these incredible and overwhelming messages of support. We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time where there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon. to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations that will not accept and tolerate levels of corruption that are unprecedented. I'm speaking particularly to those of you that are watching this in the UK. How do you feel about your legal system right now? How do you feel about some of the high-profile cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted? How do you feel that the Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just sort of general context. I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, with just about a shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter. Praise.
Right, I think we've just got to watch this again. Is it just me? I mean, please tell me, honestly, if you've got a different view of this than me, tell me about it. But he just gives me the creeps a bit, this guy. Yeah. Praise the Lord. Anyway, let's watch it one more time. You know what? I don't know. Who knows? These allegations, the one thing I'll say, they're about 20, at least 20 years old, aren't they? And I always feel a bit annoyed with people that don't come forward, and then 20 years later they come forward, or what, just, I understand it like 40 years ago, but, people come out of the woodwork, don't they? It's like Mohammed Al Fayed. Next thing we'll have Mark Williams Thomas coming up with something. People talking about things that going back years, but things that are happening now don't get talked about. And then you've got Hugh Edwards. He was not given a prison sentence for having child pee on his phone. That bloody woman then not given a prison sentence, even though she murdered a baby. What have you got to do to get prison sentence these days? What have you got to do? There's MPs out there, and he's right in a way what he's saying. And, I wouldn't refer to Keir Starmer in particular, just generally, the way it was before Keir Starmer ever took power. People who are in power, they never get held to account for anything. Don't matter if it's Keir Starmer, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak. Everybody gets away with literal murder sometimes. All those MPs in the House of Commons that have been investigated for sex allegations. Mark Francois backing, all the allegations against him, and he's still there. Oh God, so much. There is so much corruption. There is, and there probably always has been. Now I don't know where Russell fits into this, or is he just using it to help his agenda? What is the agenda of the government or whatever to condemn Russell? What possible good does it serve them? There's that. I mean, people have come forward and accused him of things, and he self-admittedly was totally out of control 20 years ago. So how does he even know whether he did it or not? Would he even remember? Would he really? Let's go back to the beginning again. He literally, what would any woman see in him? I mean, he's creepy as F-U-C-K, isn't he?
Hello. Firstly, thank you for these incredible and overwhelming messages of support. We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time where there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations that will not accept and tolerate levels of corruption that are unprecedented. I'm speaking particularly to those of you that are watching this in the UK. How do you feel about your legal system right now, how do you feel about some of the high-profile cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted? How do you feel that the Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just sort of general context. Me, I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, we're just about a shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. Honestly, yeah, sorry, it just gives me the complete and absolute creeps. But hey, well, who am I to say? But he does. So I don't know. Anyway, he's been charged. That's his response. I've given it, we have to look at his response. That's what he's got to say. To me, he spoke all the way through that with gritted teeth. And he kept saying, look into my eyes. And I looked into his eyes and I saw absolutely nothing. But anyway, hi, Joanne. Sorry, I'm going to finish soon. You've come in. I think we'll watch Russel one more time, eh? Let's watch him one more time. Look at his eyes. Look into my eyes, he said. Look into his eyes. Yeah, sorry, Russell. I'm looking into your eyes. Don't like what I see. Sorry.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for these incredible and overwhelming messages of support. We're very fortunate in a way to live in a time where there's so little trust in the British government. We're very fortunate, I suppose, that this is happening at a time where we know that the law has become a kind of weapon to be used against people, institutions, and sometimes entire nations that will not accept and tolerate levels of corruption that are unprecedented. I'm speaking particularly to those of you that are watching this in the UK. How do you feel about your legal system right now? How do you feel about some of the high-profile cases that are not being pursued and prosecuted? How do you feel that the Southport murders were handled? How do you feel about the government of Keir Starmer? Now, that's just...
It sort of annoys me that he's saying this because first of all, he's saying, how do you feel about the Southport murders and this, that, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Well, you can still be angry about those, but still be angry about him. Does that mean what he's saying is he's trying to use the fact that people feel that those other cases maybe aren't being handled properly? He's going to use that to sort of try and extenuate himself. And then he brings up Keir Starmer's government. But, Keir Starmer's only been in government for 8 months. These investigations into Russell started ages ago before Keir Starmer's government. So he's trying to use all this sort of anger, if you like, that the British people in particular, because he said he was speaking directly, particularly to British people. He's trying to use all the anger that people have got against the government, the current government, even though his investigations started ages ago, not under Keir Starmer's government, probably started under Boris's government, did they? Boris Johnson's government or Rishi Sunak's government or Liz Truss? We have that many different prime ministers, I've lost track. But he's trying to sort of use what's going on, isn't he? Just people's general dissatisfaction with the government to try and extenuate his circumstances. But just because whatever people might be angry about Southport or this, that, blah, de, blah, de, blah, doesn't take away from the fact if he has done the things that he's accused of doing. So what they're saying is, let's forget them charges because we don't want people saying, look at it, we don't want people saying it's because, you know, the general sort of malaise of the British government. Let's just forget Russell's case.
Just sort of general context. I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, were just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your...
I notice he mentions his show, though. He's like, oh, thank you for your continuing support. Just look into my eyes. I think you can tell that by looking in my eyes and hearing the way I'm talking through gritted teeth. Sorry, this response that is made to me just makes me feel even more icky about him. I don't like his eyes. I don't like the way he's talking through gritted teeth. And then he's saying, but of course you can watch it on my show on Rumble. You know, so he's using it to cash in and, you know, get his views up on on Rumble on Monday or whatever. You know, just he's a horrible man. Sorry, he's a horrible man. It's like to me now, this him talking, it's just like Andrew Tate talking. You know, oh yes, I've been maligned, and oh, you know, people taking advantage and, you know, falsely accusing me of stuff. I don't believe that he's being falsely accused. Well, I'd have to hear from the victims, though. Now, the one thing I would say, there's something else that I wanted to say here, which I nearly forgot. Let's listen to the end of this. Actually, I'll talk about it in another video, the other thing.
Your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter.
Through gritted teeth. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Through gritted teeth, we'll carry on talking about this. But yeah, there's sort of some... Oh, thank you, Mello. Thank you, Mello, so much. Let's see who I can never see. Do you know who won it? Oh, it was Silver. Ah, hi. So yeah, now something that I do want to talk about, though, I don't know if I haven't got time now to talk about it properly. The only sympathy that I feel for Russell is, of course, are the victims, I presume, are anonymous, are they? Russell, he's got his name been put out there, he's been accused, and until he gets his day in court and maybe gets found not guilty or maybe gets found guilty, whatever happens, he will always have these slurs against him. And I just wanted to, it just reminded me a little bit of somebody who we spoke about a while ago. And I don't want to go into it in great detail because I know that they don't want me to go into it in great detail. So out of respect for them. But it's true that sometimes when famous people get accused of something, and then they have to wait until the court case comes up and it's all over the papers that they've been accused of this and they've been accused of that. And then when they get found not guilty, it's not always so public. You know, you get, as soon as somebody famous is accused of something, it's all over the media. It's all over the mainstream media, which of course then knocks onto social media. Then when they actually go to court and if they're found not guilty, they then have to rebuild all that. You know, if Russell Brand ends up being found not guilty, he's then got to repair all this damage that's been done on him, you know, for being accused of the things he's been accused of. And this was a case that happened not long ago, of course, which again, didn't see much in media, mainstream media, social media, or whatever. It never seems to be so popular when somebody's exonerated. And I want to just talk very quickly about Charles Hanson, my very favourite on Bargain Hunt. absolute favourite. And he, of course, was accused of domestic violence, wasn't he? And then, I don't know if you even know that he was actually cleared of assaulting his wife. That she'd accused him of. And I made one video about him saying, oh my God, I couldn't believe it, because he was like my favourite bargain hunter. Bargain hunt is a bit of a secret, guilty secret of mine. I love bargain hunt. I haven't watched it for ages, but I do like it. And probably because I haven't watched it because he hasn't been on it, because he's my favourite. And of course, he was accused of domestic violence, and it was very disappointing for a lot of people in the beginning. But what we have to remember is that just because somebody's accused of something does not mean that they are guilty. And Charles Hanson was completely exonerated of domestic violence that he was accused of. Not only that, it was actually, turns out, it was his wife was more, she'd accuse it. It's like, so there's only one thing worse, in my opinion, than a domestic abuser or a stalker or anything like that, is someone who claims that they've been abused or stalked, lies about it. They're worse, because they that's why people don't get believed sometimes, because of people who accuse people of stalking or accuse people of domestic violence, when actually it's not true. And I do feel this is what happened to Charles, bless him. Let's have a look.
It's obviously a delight. I've experienced a long time of upsets,
Oh,
and I always believed in justice. And here we are today. The sun is shining, and I can start my life again.
What have these last 18 months been like for you?
They've been extremely upsetting. I've missed my children,
oh.
and quite simply, I can now get back to my life, and I relish that.
What's the impact been on your wider family?
It's been very impactful. I'm very lucky my parents have stood by me from start to finish, and without my family, it would have been a very, very testing time. But when you believe in justice, you know justice, and here we are today. It's taken a long, long time, and I think to anyone who knows me, who's believed in me, who supported me, who's messaged me, to everybody out there, thank you. It's obviously a
Now,
delight.
I think one thing I can also say about Charles is when he comes over talking, like he's not talking through gritted teeth, and the way he comes over in a different way, doesn't he? You can feel. I mean, look, when things happen in people's personal lives, the only people who know the truth are the people that it happened to. They know the truth. But Charles comes over as being a much more honest man. He comes over as genuine. Who knows if he is or not? At the end of the day, that's a personal thing. Personally, not only from what I've seen on here, but from other things that I can't go into, I do believe Charles, and I do believe he was not guilty. And anyway, he was found not guilty. That's all that matters in our legal system. He was found not guilty. And he's now trying to rebuild his life, get back on track with his children. He lost his job, really. The BBC just kicked him off. He's got his auction house, of course, where he's got his own business, but he was kicked off Bargain Hunt and all those kind of things. But gradually, I think Charles will come back. Everyone is innocent till proven guilty, and Charles, of course, was not proven to be guilty, and we have to respect that. So there's part of me that sort of thinks, poor Charles, really, because he experienced all that, even though it's turned out he didn't do anything. He sort of experienced all that hate, lost his job, you name it, it happened to him. So yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm just looking through the chat now. Okay, so yeah, Charles Hanson was found not guilty. Bless him. I hope he rebuilds his career. As far as Russell Brand's concerned, I don't know. I think he probably is guilty. But everyone's innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think that's all I've got to say. Listen, Mello, thank you so much for the gifted membership. Where are we now? It is, oh my God, what day is it? I don't know what. Oh, it's Saturday, isn't it? Probably won't be back later tonight, but I will be back in the morning with the Sunday service. So don't forget anything. Anyone you think you want me to pray for, it might be you, it might be someone you know, might be anything, because tomorrow we're going to do some prayers. We're going to send out some positive vibes at 11 o'clock Spanish time. We're going to do Sunday service, and you know what, it doesn't matter if it's doesn't matter what it is. If anybody needs prayers, positive thoughts, it's not about religion. It doesn't matter what religion you are. I couldn't care less what religion people are. Positive thoughts, prayers can go out. You don't have to have a name to who you send your prayers out to. Send them out to the universe. Good thoughts. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So have a great evening. I'm going to go and have my curry now. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, that's about it, isn't it? So thank you so much. Take care. Remember to look after you. You are the most important person, because do you know what? In this life, if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anyone else. And all we can do is look after each other, can't we? Ourselves first. We do come first, because if you don't feel up to it, you can't look after anybody else. So yourself first, then everybody else. And you just, looking after other people, it can be a tiny little thing. It can be smiling at someone in the supermarket. It can be, don't do what I did today, put 2 fingers up at someone when I was driving, because, we're all human as well. And I thought afterwards, I shouldn't really have done that. But they did try and overtake me on the inside, and you get angry, don't you? And then afterwards I thought, I shouldn't have done that. I should have been nice. I felt guilty that I'd put 2 fingers up at him. They probably didn't care. They probably didn't even see it. But what I'm trying to say is we all have to try and be nice, even though sometimes it is difficult. It is difficult when someone tries to overtake you on the inside. It is difficult. But what I'm trying to say is we're all in this together. We're all in this life together. We're not getting out of it alive. We've just got to do the best we can. And we're going to support each other tomorrow. Okay, take care. Because I love you, and may your God go with you. Bye. Oh, forgot to press.